So, there I was, sitting on the peeling couch in our tiny college apartment, just about to take a bite of the most glorious pepperoni pizza I'd ever seen. I mean, it was one of those nights where you think, this is exactly how life should be. No stress, just me, some cheesy goodness, and maybe some bad TV in the background. Little did I know, one random bite was about to throw all that right out the window. I remember the moment like it was yesterday, the pizza slice halfway to my mouth when suddenly my throat decided it hated me. Like full on, tried to strangle me from the inside kind of hate. I started coughing, and I don't mean the polite little cough that empties your mouth. No, this was the kind that makes every part of your body shake, and for a split second, I thought I might actually pass out right there on the couch. Then came Jake. Now, Jake is my roommate, the kind of guy who treats every day like it's an action movie, except the stunts usually end up being more embarrassing than epic. When I started choking, instead of calmly checking if I was okay, Jake did this wild, panicked dance around the living room that looked like a weird mix between a firefighter on a bad day and someone trying to interpretive dance his way to help. His first words? "Holy crap, you're dying!" Or is this just a really intense sneeze? At this point, I'm hacking up a lung and trying not to panic, but Jake's reaction was so unexpected it made the whole thing even crazier. I was about to signal for help, but before I could, Jake, without missing a beat, tried to do this weird Heimlich maneuver that resembled more of a wrestling move and less of a life-saving technique. The strangest part? Right in the middle of all this chaos, there was a knock at the door. Mrs. Patel, our nosy neighbor who has zero chill and an uncanny ability to show up whenever things get loud, she barged in with this look that clearly said, "I'm about to tattle, aren't I?" I could barely breathe. Jake was flailing around like a maniac, and Mrs. Patel was standing there with a rolling pin ready to defend her prized begonias from whatever disaster was unfolding next. But here's the kicker. Despite the near-death experience and Jake's unconventional rescue attempt, I somehow survived. And honestly, that night didn't just save my life, it changed everything about how I saw this unpredictable guy I call my roommate. Turns out, in the middle of chaos, weird can be pretty heroic. Or at least, that's what I'm trying to tell myself as I relive this madness. Jake's reputation as a walking disaster wasn't an exaggeration. I swear, if chaos had a mascot, it would be him, wearing mismatched sneakers, carrying a half-empty energy drink, and somehow managing to trip over absolutely nothing. When we first moved in together, I thought, sure, living with Jake might be an adventure, but it can't be that bad. Oh, how naive I was. Our apartment? Tiny. Like, the kind of tiny where your bed practically touches the kitchen counter, and if you sneeze in the bedroom, you risk knocking over the coffee table. It's your classic two-bedroom setup stuffed with way too much stuff, not to mention zero privacy. You don't just share a place, you share your personal space, your snacks, and sometimes whole conversations with walls that might as well not exist. I know way too much about Jake's nocturnal habits, and unfortunately, he's witnessed me surreptitiously trying to avoid doing dishes. Jake's stuff? It was everywhere. A pile of clothes that looked more like a game of Jenga, empty soda cans stacking like a leaning tower near the gaming console, random chargers plugged into every outlet, most of which were completely unnecessary. Living with him was a constant balancing act between tolerating his mess and trying not to sound like an uptight, neat freak. So yeah, we argued. Over dumb stuff like whose turn it was to take out the trash, or why Jake thought it was perfectly fine to eat the last protein bar I'd been saving for days. And then there was the noise. Jake's music taste was a unique mix of whatever song was currently stuck in his head, and 90% of the time, it was louder than what our apartment's ancient soundproofing could handle. I remember countless nights where I tried focusing on a paper or getting some sleep, while Jake's impromptu drum sessions on any available surface gave me a headache. I know, college life and all that, but by the end of the day, those little annoyances started to pile up like dirty laundry. So, the night before the whole pizza incident, things had been a bit tense. We'd had a dumb argument in the morning about something ridiculous. He accused me of eating his instant noodles, which I didn't, obviously. And honestly, I might have been a little cranky too. I was just ready for a quiet night to decompress, get some food in me, and maybe catch up on my favorite show without the world exploding around me. But then Jake comes home with this big grin and a couple of pizza boxes. Suddenly, the tension in the room felt like it might ease. He was all in that, hey, let's forget the dumb fights and have a chill night mood, and honestly, I was too hungry to care. The apartment wasn't exactly a sanctuary. It barely felt like my own space most days, but maybe tonight would be different. Maybe the noise, the mess, the nagging frustrations wouldn't matter as long as there was pizza and some sort of peace. I flopped onto the couch, pulling out a slice with the kind of anticipation only pepperoni pizza on a Friday night can inspire. Jake was messing with the TV remote, humming something offbeat. For a moment, I actually thought this might be one of those rare normal nights until, well, you know the rest. Right after I started choking, it was like the whole apartment turned into some bizarre stage for chaos. I'm gasping, grabbing my throat, and Jake's waving his arms around like he's summoning some magical rescue squad. At one point, he's behind me, hands hovering awkwardly around my midsection, clearly trying to remember exactly how this Heimlich maneuver thing went. He muttered, Okay, this is like that thing from the movies, right? Just wait. And then there he was, squeezing what I hoped was the right spot, but definitely felt more like a bear hug gone wrong. I'm coughing so hard I thought I might pass out. Meanwhile, Jake's eyes are wide with what can only be described as panic infused with the unmistakable hint of, I have no clue what I'm doing. And just when I'm convinced this nightmare can't get any weirder, there's this sharp knock on the door. Mrs. Patel. Of course. The door swings open before I can even try to get my bearings, and there she is, standing in the doorway like a detective on the scene of a crime, clutching her ever-trusted rolling pin. She squints at me struggling on the couch, then at Jake, who's flailing his arms like a windmill caught in a tornado. Her voice is that perfect blend of concern and unrelenting suspicion. What's going on in here? You two sound like a couple of wild animals fighting, she says, peering inside like she's about to uncover a secret underground rave. I'm wheezing, trying to signal I'm fine, but between Jake's chaotic rescue and me coughing my lungs out, the message was pretty lost. Jake, bless him, tries to explain through gasps. No, ma'am, he's, just demonstrating a new dance move? Yeah, that's it. It's called the choking chicken. Which, surprised me, wasn't much of a convincing defense, especially with me turning an alarming shade of red. Well, just as Mrs. Winnie. Patel is about to lecture us on noise complaints and proper emergency responses. My phone buzzes like crazy. It's Emma, my best friend. Her texts pop up one after another. WTF, dude, is Jake actually helpful or just dead weight in a medical emergency? Are you sure he's not just making things worse? Send help. And maybe a professional. I try to text back between coughs that I'm okay. Mostly. But the truth was, if Jake hadn't jumped in, even with his wildly uncoordinated moves, I might have ended up a frozen pizza myself. Or worse, a cautionary tale in a cringe-worthy group chat. Eventually, the coughing fit eased. I was breathing again, shaky but alive, and Jake even managed a sheepish grin, muttering something like, See? I saved you. Sort of. Maybe. Mrs. Possimal. Patel gave us both a look that could melt steel, half suspicious, half, I'm just glad you're still breathing. She left with a stern warning about how next time she'd call the fire department rather than listen to whatever racket was going on in our place. Then there was that thick, almost tangible silence between Jake and me. Not the uncomfortable kind from arguing over dirty dishes or loud music, but something different. Like the calm after the storm where you start to realize maybe this roommate thing wasn't just about putting up with his mess or his wild antics. Later that night, Jake and I sat on the couch, him nervously fiddling with the pizza box, me still catching my breath, both of us processing what had just happened. I caught him looking at me with this uncharacteristically serious expression and said, You know, that was probably the closest I've come to truly fearing for my life. And you, well, you were a disaster as usual, but you were there. He shrugged, half smiling. Hey, if I'm gonna be a walking disaster, at least I'm a disaster who's got your back, even if it looks like I'm wrestling a ghost. I laughed, the tension breaking a bit, and maybe, just maybe, I started seeing the weird warmth beneath the crazy. That night was a mess, no doubt. But it was also the start of something new. A weird, unpredictable bond forged out of panic, pizza, and a near-death episode that neither of us would forget anytime soon. Jake's apology was awkward but genuine, the kind that only Jake could deliver without it sounding completely ridiculous. He shuffled around the cluttered living room, kicking aside a stray pizza box, and said, Look, man, I'm really sorry about the choking chaos. I know my rescue looked like a weird mashup of a wrestling match and some interpretive dance no one asked for. He scratched the back of his neck, looking more sheepish than usual. But seriously, I swear I'm going to learn what the heck I'm doing next time. Maybe take a first aid class, or at least watch a YouTube tutorial, or, ask Mrs. Patel for her emergency contact list. I couldn't help but chuckle at that. Jake, the guy whose most reliable skill was causing unintentional disasters, suddenly trying to make this promise felt oddly reassuring. Maybe there was hope that he'd get more than just emergency pizza orders right in the future. For my part, I had to admit, Jake's chaotic way of handling the choking incident was somehow better than any calm textbook approach I might have hoped for. It wasn't just that he was there. It was the fact that, despite his goofiness, he actually cared. It dawned on me that Jake's unpredictable nature wasn't just a series of accidents waiting to happen. Underneath all the mess and noise was someone who would throw himself into the fire even if it meant fumbling like a total amateur. We agreed, with some mild grumbling and a whole lot of teasing about his Heimlich freestyle, that living together meant embracing the madness. And honestly, that was kind of freeing. No more silent resentment or bristling annoyance over the clutter or the noise. Instead, there was this unspoken acknowledgement that, yeah, things were messy and sometimes terrifying, but also strangely comforting. In the days that followed, I noticed little things. Jake actually cleaned the kitchen without me having to nag. He started muttering about learning emergency moves, and occasionally, I'd catch him practicing his new life-saving techniques on a cushion or even Mrs. Patel's potted plants, though she conveniently forgot to mention witnessing those sessions. And despite our usual chaos, there was a new rhythm to how we navigated living together, less arguing, more laughing. More than that, that near-death moment gave me a new perspective. It wasn't just about the pizza or the choking or even Jake's unconventional rescue. It was about realizing how fragile and unpredictable life can be, and how sometimes the people you least expect can become anchors when everything's falling apart. Now, I still wonder if I'm lucky or cursed to have Jake as a roommate. Because let's be real, life with him is never dull. There will definitely be more disasters, probably some awkward emergencies, and a lot of moments that make me question my own sanity. But maybe that's exactly why he saved me. Not just from choking, but from letting the small stuff get in the way of an honestly good friendship. So yeah, that crazy night wasn't just about a pizza slice gone wrong or a flailing attempt at the Heimlich. It was the start of something that, weirdly enough, made our little cramped apartment feel more like a home. And as for Jake, well, I'm pretty sure if he saved my life once, there's a chance he'll keep saving it, one mess at a time.